In this lesson, we're going to learn how to multiply and divide with mixed numbers. Our first example is 4 times 2.5. So the first thing I need to look at is there are two different multiplication problems happening here. I have 4 times 2, but I also have 4 times 1/2. So in order to make sure that 4 gets multiplied by everything with my mixed number, I need to change this to an improper fraction. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5 halves times 4. And I know that when I have a whole number, I need to make my denominator 1 so that I can multiply the denominators and the whole number is my numerator. 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 2 is 2. And this is improper. And I know that 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 4 times 2.5 is 10. And I can show this with a model. So I can do 4 objects. That was one time. I can do 4 objects again. So now that's my 4 times 2, which has left me with 8 objects. And then this last part, 4 times 1/2, I can look at this in two separate ways. If I had 4 objects and I only took half of them, that would still be 2 objects. Or if I took half of each of the 4 objects and combined them, that would also still be 2 objects. So regardless, I have 8 objects up here, plus the 2 objects I got from taking half of 4 here, and that would still give me 10 objects. In this example, we're going to try 2 mixed numbers. There are 4 things being multiplied. I have 1 times 1, but I also have 1 times 1/4. Then I have 2/3 times 1, and there's also 2/3 times 1/4. So in order to make sure everything gets multiplied by everything, I turn both of these mixed numbers improper. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5/3. 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5/4. When I multiply across, I get 25, and 3 times 4 is 12, and this is improper, so I'm going to divide. I know that 12 can go into 25 2 times, and 2 times 12 is 24, with 1 left over. So the answer to 1 2/3 times 1 1/4 is 2 1/12. Let's try another mixed number times mixed number. So I already know both of these mixed numbers have to be turned improper because there are 4 things being multiplied. It is 2 times 1 and 2 times 1/3. 3/5 times 1 and 3/5 times 1/3. So when I turn these improper, I start with 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 plus 3 is 13/5. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4/3. And I'm going to solve 13 times 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, so this is 52. And I know 5 times 3 is 15. And my last step is always to turn this improper back to a mixed number. So I know that 15 times 2 is 30. So I'm going to check 15 times 3. That is 45. And I'm going to borrow. 12 minus 5 is 7. So 7 out of 15 is left. So the final answer to 2 3/5 times 1 1/3 is 3 7/15. Now let's try an example with division. Division is a similar concept. I know that in this problem 6 is divided by 1, but 6 is also going to be divided by 1/2. So I already know that I am going to have to turn this mixed number improper. But I also need to remember that when I use division, I use KFC, keep, flip, change. So I'm going to start by turning this mixed number improper. So I have 6 divided by 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 plus 1 is 3/2. So all I've done right now is change 1 1/2 to 3/2. Now, in order to solve this as a division problem, I need to use the steps of KFC. K stands for keep the first number the same. F stands for flip, so instead of 3/2, I'm going to change this to 2/3. And the last step is to change this division sign to multiplication. In order to multiply a whole number, 6 times 2/3, I have to give it a denominator of 1. And now I'm going to multiply across. 6 times 2 is 12. And 1 times 3 is 3. And I know my math fact, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So if I wanted to show this with a model, it would look like this. If I had 6 objects, and I wanted to put them in groups of 1 1/2, I would take a whole object and a half an object, and that would be one group. Then I could take this whole object and this half of an object, and that would be 2 groups. Then another whole and a half, that's 3 groups, and I have left a whole and a half. And my answer is, when I put 6 objects in groups of 1 1/2, this will give me 4 groups. Now let's try a mixed number divided by a mixed number. Once again, I need to look at how many different division problems are happening here. This is 2 divided by 1, and 2 divided by 1/4, 1/2 divided by 1, and 1/2 divided by 1/4. So I know that with mixed numbers, I am going to turn them both improper. And I also know that at some point, division problems are going to use KFC. So I'm going to start with 2 1/2. I know that 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5/2. Divided by 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5/4. So I've fixed the first problem. My second step is to change this division problem using the steps of KFC. KFC means keep the first fraction. I'm going to flip this second fraction so that 4 is on top, so 4/5. And the last step is change division to multiplication. Now I can multiply across. 5 times 4 is 20. 2 times 5 is 10. And I know that 20 divided by 10 equals 2. So 2 1/2 divided by 1 1/4 equals 2. Let's try one more example of a mixed number divided by a mixed number. Once again, I know that both of these will have to be turned improper in order for 7 to be divided by 1 and 1/2, and to have 1/2 divided by 1 and 1/2. So as I start with 7 1/2, I know that 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15/2. Divided by 2 times 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3/2. Once again, this is a division problem, and division uses KFC. Keep 15 over 2, flip 3/2, so it's now 2/3, and change division to multiplication. Now I'm going to multiply across. 15 times 2 is 30. 2 times 3 is 6. And 30 divided by 6 is 5. So 7 1/2 divided by 1 1/2 is equal to 5. Now try these practice problems. Remember that if you have a mixed number, you always have to turn it improper in order for the operation to be applied to the whole number and the fraction. Also, in order to turn a whole number into a fraction, remember to put 1 as the denominator. For the division problems, you'll need to turn both mixed numbers improper, and remember to use KFC. Keep, flip, change.